你这个是在拍什么？
这不是我拍的，刚刚有人送过来的。你是跟着他干嘛呀？
关灯。
我只想要找到小波。
我们在你家外安装监控，
只要可以找到小波，做什么都可以。
小波就在溜滑梯那个地方，然后他就不见了。
Hola, muy buenos días a todas y todos. Bienvenidos a esta 69 Seminci, ahora con el retorno de un cineasta que estuvo en Valladolid en el año 2018. Una tierra imaginada ganó el premio a la mejor fotografía. Y es un verdadero placer tener a Xihua una vez más aquí, compitiendo en la sección oficial internacional con Stranger Eyes. Un fuerte aplauso para Xihua, que vuelve a Seminci. Bien, yo diría que si Una tierra imaginada fue una película cautivadora que le puso en el foco, ¿no?, ese debut cinematográfico, Stranger Eyes es un rotundo paso adelante. Es una película que nos habla de cuestiones eternas, muy complejas, la dificultad de la maternidad y la paternidad, cómo conciliar también las pulsiones interiores y ser alguien responsable, la imagen social que tenemos, la sociedad de vigilancia y de ausencia de libertades en la que existimos, y todo ello, para mí, articulado de una forma realmente virtuosa. Seguro que tenéis muchas preguntas para él, pero yo quería comenzar preguntando por un poco la piedra principal en la que construye esta película tan intensa. ¿Fueron quizás un hecho de la realidad? ¿Esta niña perdida procede de algo que conocía o es algo totalmente imaginado? ¿Cuál es el origen de Stranger Eyes?
Yeah. So the question being how I started with this process of writing, and for me, you were saying something real. Yes, I mean basically the environment I live in, Singapore. This is very much like the previous film, Land Imagine. For me, it's important that for me to engage with the country and the environment I live in. So. For those who know, Singapore is a very small, tiny island, but we have also a lot of people, and it's like very dense, like many cities now. We live in like high-rise apartments and very densely packed, and so you open your window and you see your neighbors, you see your neighbors looking at you, you know each other's routine. Yeah, so it's like this. You're always looking and being seen. It's like the daily ritual for me, no? But meanwhile, also I know that the state is watching me, because Singapore is also, quite famously quite heavily surveillance, so you never forget about this fact. You can walk 10 minutes down the road and you will see 3 cameras, right? So yeah, it's like I'm watching my neighbors, but I know that someone is watching me watching my neighbors. So I think this chain of gazes is very much kind of what propelled the premise of this story.
Preguntas, comentarios, sabéis que levantéis la mano y os cederemos el micrófono. Hay una por ahí atrás, ahora le pasan el micro.
Sí, hombre, Hola, buenos días. Mira, a lo mejor no debiera preguntarte esto porque es desvelar un poco el nudo de la película y no me gusta hacer spoilers, pero a la salida del cine cada uno pensaba una cosa diferente. Había entendido la película de una manera diferente. Y entonces yo te quería preguntar si tu idea era esto, de que cada persona se haga su propia película, o tú tienes una idea concreta, que si es, luego me gustaría un poco que me la explicaras, porque ya te digo que cada uno entendió cosas diferentes. Gracias.
No, thank you for the question. I think this is important in the way I constructed the movie. Because this is a movie about perspectives. You know, it's about it's very important when I see the movie. It's always a movie about the subjectivities, like whose subjectivity are we seeing. So, you know, for me, it's important that actually we never fully understand something. You know, we never fully see all the picture. We see it from different angles and different perspectives. You know, so I think that's very much part of the film. Is sometimes the more you watch, the more you think you don't know. You know, I think that's also very much part of the fabric of the movie. And yeah, this so interpretations of, you know, the movie also is not is built upon layers, and how you interpret this is maybe coming out of a lot of who you are. It's like in the movie there is a mention that you see yourself, you know, when you look at others, and I think this a lot has to do with how we are projecting a lot of what we see. You know, we're projecting a lot of ourselves, you know, onto what we see, because I honestly believe that to really understand something or someone that you're looking at, you have to project some kind of your own humanity onto the subject, you know, or else it becomes a meaningless looking, you know. So I think a lot of this sort of projection of the audience themselves, you know, is also discussed in the movie, and I think, you know, I left these kind of spaces, you know, a space for your own interpretation, just as well as there's a story and it's a very plot driven also, but at the same time, it's important for me with these spaces in the movie. Yeah.
Aquí tenemos otra pregunta, un momentito que te ceden el micro, aquí en la primera fila.
Hola. En una película que habla tanto de la relación que tenemos con las imágenes, has elegido a unos padres como protagonistas del relato, y estaba pensando en Caché, de Haneke, que también sitúa un matrimonio que recibe una serie de vídeos, y quería preguntarte cómo ha cambiado esta relación que tenemos con las imágenes en estos años y por qué sigue interesándote la idea de unos padres como receptores de esta violencia con las imágenes, por así decirlo.
I didn't pick the topic of the parents or parenthood, right? To directly comment on maybe the other thing that you were asking about, which is like images, you know, all these images in our lives. For me, importantly, that firstly, this film is about the many layers of images, right? We see on the phone, on the computer screen, is like a simulacrum of images, and that for me is important in a conceptual level of this movie. This is for me because I honestly feel like there is no more relationships in our lives that is not mediated by images. Whether is it lovers or parents or children, all our relationships in our lives now is very image-based. It's very video mediated. There's a mediation of our relationships, and that for me is what I really wanted to look at. No. Sometimes I say this before in maybe another place, but I will repeat it again, that I feel like the image that we put out has almost become more real than who we are, because again the image has become so much of an importance in that plays the roles in our lives. You know, our existence is very tied up to being seen through these images, you know, to be liked and subscribed and followed and all these things, you know. So yeah, when I was contemplating on the relationships of people, how they are all so tied up with images, that fits into how I constructed the story, which is about the parents, a young couple, a young couple struggling with their parenthood, but also with their parents, right? Like, it's an intergenerational story in a way, right? It's like, for me, any story about the kid is also about story about the parents, Yeah. But yeah, I think that's how I constructed it in that way. Thank you.
Sí, hay una pregunta por ahí atrás y luego primera fila.
Buenas. Lo primero que todo, felicitarte por la película y preguntarte que en una película cargada de tantos silencios, miradas, perspectivas, ¿cómo es ese paso de idear la película desde un guión pues, más imaginario a después traducirlo a espacios y que los espacios tengan pues, tanta presencia y tanta importancia a lo largo de toda la película?
I mean, for me, spaces is very important, and that I'm very sensitive to space. It's maybe why I chose cinema as my medium, of expression. So it's very important for me. The starting point is always space, and so when in constructing this movie, I knew that, of course, this movie was about looking, So, and looking has a lot to do with space. In fact, on some level, this movie can be made into a silent movie. If you really want to take out all the dialogues, the movie can still work. It's just that you might be seeing different things, and you fill in the gaps. With how you want to construct the story, because again, seeing is not seeing everything. Seeing is always seeing through a perspective, right? What you are allowed to see, what you're not allowed to see, all of this is still very much part of the process, and that has to do with the spaces, what you are allowed and not allowed to see, because, very importantly, there is 2 apartments, right, that look into each other. Sometimes these 2 apartments feels like some kind of temporal mirror, They're like looking at each other. Yeah. So this idea of the space for me is always really important. What you see from very, very far and what you see up close, it's a completely different thing. It's the same person doing the same thing, but if you see it from 50 kilometers away, and if you see it, in 50 centimeters away, you see a completely different thing. And I think for me that is what I wanted to play with. Yeah.
Sí, aquí había otra pregunta.
Hola, buenos días. Quería saber, en esta película ha trabajado con un actor tan prestigioso como Lee Kang-shen, perdón por la pronunciación, y ¿se ha sentido intimidado por su trayectoria a la hora de darle indicaciones? ¿Cómo ha sido esta relación?
Yeah, Lee Kang-shen, the actor who plays the voyeur, the older guy in the movie, he is, of course, quite a legend, no? For those who don't know, he's a regular in the films of Tsai Ming-liang, and when we wanted to cast someone to play a silent voyeur, it was a no-brainer situation for me to want to try him for the role. In many ways, as I was writing the film, I was already having him in mind, and this man, if you know his body of work, why I mentioned Tsai Ming-liang is that he has a very big body of work that is very minimal in dialogue, right? And so it's like he has, over all this time, gotten a real mastery of his body language, because he has been needing to express. It's like making a silent movie, as I say. He has such a powerful mastery of his body language, and very importantly for me, the gaze in his eyes. After all, this is a movie about gazers and watching. And so, for me, he has this very powerful gaze, which I wanted to, once I've said this before also, this like that, once I put him in front of a camera, everything changed. It's like, it's something that is very difficult to write on paper, but then suddenly when he brought his humanity onto the role, onto the character, and I saw him on the camera for the first time, and I was very moved. It was that he brought so much of his humanity on the character. I fell in love with the voyeur so quickly, It's like I didn't know that I was going to fall in love with the voyeur, until suddenly Lee Kang-shen came onto the role, and he was very powerful. And for me, I don't like to impose so much of myself. I want to, Lee Kang-shen is a great actor, and as you say, is it a scary process? At the start, it could be, right? But he is not just a great actor, he's a wonderful human being. He's like extremely patient, and it's a really great opportunity to work with him. And we decided that we want to let him lead, and me and my cinematographer, we decided that we are not going to change the way he looks at something. And so, it's very interesting that, in a production set, sometimes you are saying, let's shoot this part first because we need to clear so that we can change the set, It's just very common and save money. But then my DOP, Hideo Urata, was like, no. We need to shoot Lee Kang-shen first so that we know how he is looking. And then we shoot his point of view. And that for me was like, eureka, of course, So the whole movie, we changed, the way that we were going to shoot this movie. We decided that he was going to lead us in terms of how he was going to look, how he was going to gaze on anything. And then we take that cue from him to open up the space of what he sees, So, when you have an amazing actor like this, it changes the game, it changes the film itself. And thankfully, he was very interested in the film after reading the script, and he made a lot of accommodations for us to have him in the film, thankfully. Yeah.
¿Más preguntas? Aquí hay otra, sí, le dan el micro.
Buenas, primero enhorabuena por la película y gracias por estar aquí. Yo quería recoger la pregunta que hacían al principio, porque es verdad que todos salíamos discutiendo de la película y parecía que cada uno había visto una diferente. Pero voy a ser un poco más bruto, pero es que me siento con ganas de repreguntar. Quería saber qué interpretación hacíais desde dentro del proyecto, si realmente pensáis que el protagonista se acaba convirtiendo en el voyeur del principio, si esa chica a la que espía al final es una proyección de su hija o es un amor frustrado. ¿Cómo lo ves tú? Muchas gracias.
What do you think? Yeah, as you put it, like the film, it's a film that requires some patience, for you to slowly encounter it. I think for the film to slowly open up to you, I think that's how I would put it, because it changes, right? The film. I think this is very deliberately of us that we make a film that, more than meets the eye. It's like you think you see something and then maybe it reveals something else to you, right? And I think that's very core to the idea behind the film. I want to invite the audience to look a little more closely, a little bit more patiently, and you start to see something different, no? Because Maybe I feel like what is happening now in our lives is that we have replaced looking for scrolling, you know? We think that we see everything because we are scrolling, but actually we see nothing, you know? So for me now it's like, how do we return back to a moment that we are just looking at people in a way that it's not just like I want something from you and that's why I'm looking at you, you know, just to sincerely look at people. And I do strongly believe that when you are sincerely looking at people, you spend time to look at someone, you lose yourself. You lose yourself in this act of watching, you know. And what happens in that moment for me, that happens many times, is I start to behave like them. I start to take little gestures and antiques from this person I'm looking at. I even start to maybe talk like them, you know. But it's all very subconscious. It's sort of in this act of transformation, because I think that this act of seeing is not a passive act. It's a very transformative act. And this is how I'm going to reply your question, you know. When you are, you know, at some point later in the movie, that the younger character, he's just looking at him, right? I don't want to spoil the movie also, but at some point he's just looking at him. Why, you know? It's purely out of a curiosity, you know. It's like, and then he starts to lose himself in that process, you know. There's a transformation that is happening.
Bueno, ya este pase de prensa ha revelado lo que queríamos, una película que cautiva, que está en vuestra mente, y esta noche en el estreno nacional de Stranger Eyes en el Teatro Calderón, seguro que los espectadores, en una sala llena, por cierto, está lleno, van a salir transformados, que es lo que buscamos siempre en Seminci, y por eso estamos muy agradecidos de que haya vuelto al festival. Un fuerte aplauso.
Gracias.